Aloha, everyone, and welcome to Java. Thank you kindly for joining me again. This is for Monday, April 1st, 2024. Got markets for the first day of April. Also, April Fool's Day, as many know this, as a lot of jokes running around today. So let's get right into the markets, which has enough crazy stuff in it going on. We've got the MMRI is still staying relatively stable, 272.7 at the moment. So market's not open yet, but it looks like they're heading towards a bullish open. So basically, the market is looking forward to cuts happening again. Asian markets were strong overnight, and it's looking bullish outlook to start. We're looking at manufacturing and construction reports too, and mostly this week, basically, as we were speaking about yesterday, labor and employment reports. So, looking on the open as well as the futures are in agreement, basically in a agreed zone. So looks like it's going to continue a bullish trend at least at the open. So for this calendar, we are looking at today construction spending ISM, and then later on we're looking at the job openings. We do have Fed Governor Lisa Cook, but she's not really a big one that they kind of listen to much. So what's going on with banks? First, it appears that rotation has started. So relentless U.S. credit demand seen driving a second quarter rally. So they're talking about investors beginning to buy bonds. Basically, this is before they begin to cut rates because this is the return on their investment. So when they have to stay into 40% for a long period of time for that dividend, they want to catch it at a high point before they cut the rates, and then they'll get less return. So this is a huge deal because it's bolstering this debt market side of it, which is much larger than the stock market itself. So this is why we're always watching that 10-year yield. This will affect that. We're watching Japanese service sector because they're basically hitting a recovery, although the yen is still weak. So they trade off a lot of dollars because they need to kind of drain away excess yen. That could affect the dollar market, and then also with the relative strength of the dollar, affect the US stock markets. So we'll be watching that. Something else that I thought was interesting, the Israel central banker now warning on the impact of rising defense spending. Well, the United States is spending more than anybody. And as you know, if you've been here for a bit, or if you're new, it contributes to the gross domestic product, so the GDP. So the production of what we're doing, even though it's not really productive because we don't get anything back from it in trade necessarily, at least not on the normal market, um, it does impact that. It's going straight into our business and economy. There was a larger story on AT&T. They had another massive data breach, so I expect that to affect their stock, at least short term. I believe it was over 7.2 million of their customers. Their information was put onto the web. You could be one of them. Basically, this is why we all have to be careful with our information, but there's nothing you can do when a company like this has a breach. So, in other news, we've got Coinbase. They are going to continue to face the lawsuit from the SEC. So that could send them basically down a bit. They could take a hit from that. We'll see, because this is kind of a known that this would be coming through. So we've got delinquencies in February. This is really hitting the point of what's going on. It's talking about diverging customer credit trends. So there is a very low end that is now beginning to have much higher delinquency rates, or there's the higher end, which always pays off their debt every month, and they've got the higher spending going on. So increasing limits on the higher end, and then on the lower end, they are beginning to default. So this is that two-tier society that we talk about frequently, that this is really imposing with what's going on. This is all by design. If you're new here, it is to basically wipe out the middle class If you're in that middle, they're going to be pushing you down to the lower rung to where you cannot afford the credit any longer. So, along with this, employees were watching these employment numbers. Dell just announced they're cutting an additional 6,000, and more importantly, the reason to cut down costs on their current expenditures. So, they don't want to scare the markets by saying they're watching a drop in demand. And really, what we're looking at is deflation. So, lowering of prices could cause deflation, which, if it goes to once it hits a certain point, it's a depression. They just don't want to call it that. We're in one now. They're just not willing to put that out to the public. So we know they're going to cook these numbers, but they're going to come out, and this could justify whatever action the Federal Reserve would like to take. So they're expecting payrolls to hit another 200,000 for a fourth month. Holding up is what they're saying, but this is not the real story. When they count these numbers, they count part-time jobs as full-time. They don't differentiate. So looking at the aggregate hours worked, we're in a decline. The jobs are in a decline as well as real wages. So real economy, as we know, is definitely into a decline. And I expect that to continue. So moving over to energy, which is really a sector that moves on demand, but also is a gauge of the inflation longer term. So we've got oil rising a bit. Investors are seeing tighter supply. Some of this is because Russia is planning to cut their diesel export. So 5-month low, but still it's not a huge amount. But there's also some trade deals going on with China that are lowering. So this could cut that supply, and so prices of oil going up, which is inflationary in the long run. So we've got them looking to uranium. They're mining some near the Grand Canyon, but uranium should be on the rise here soon. Looks like they are turning more toward nuclear energy, as well as something that Sam Altman said that they're driving towards for the artificial intelligence, which is a huge user of energy, just an enormous glut of it. And he's talking about how it can be powered through nuclear energy. So, a couple of lava updates. The European Union they're showing more concerns over food and water supply. We've been talking about this for a while. Stock up, do your filters, make sure you've got secondary supplies or sources. If you're new here, this is the first thing I encourage to deal with what is coming. So live your life as you're going to have your life, relatively normal, but just in the background. Stock up and be prepared. We also had this story come out, golden age, and what it means for you. We all know what that means. It's basically push for certain things to kind of more control, so to speak, in a different way. So I mean that in the sense of a couple of things, in that this will be mandated again. If they see the need, they've got different ways that they're going to use to implement this. And then this is something else that I spoke about some time ago. It's about the Earth spinning too quickly and clocks aren't keeping up. Well, a little bit more than that. We've got a bit of a distortion that's going on, and they're beginning to study this. But if you get this sense, really, that time is not equivocal as to what it was prior, it is speeding up. So they've got a couple of really interesting studies I've been looking into, more on the engineering side, but this is beginning to back it up. So with this, wish you all a green trading day, wonderful day in general. And as always, my friends, until I see you again, stay free.